The House will come to order. Today, the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Representative Rutenell, and our guests today, gifted and talented students.
Thank you, colleagues. Please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Schiebel, please call the roll.
Representatives Amabile, Rep. Amabile, Armagost, Bacon, Byrd, Bockenfeld. Rep. Bockenfeld's excused. Basenecker, Bottoms, Bradfield, Bradley, Catlin, Representative Catlin. No. Catlin's excused. Oh, sorry. Brown, Clifford, Doherty, DeGraff, Degree Kennedy, Duran, English, Epps,
Here.
Evans, Frizzell, Froelich, Garcia, Representative Garcia. No Garcia. Garcia is excused. Hamrick. Representative Hamrick. Hamrick's excused. Oh, sorry. Hartsook. Hernandez. Harrod. Rep. Harrod. No. Harrod's excused. Holtorf. Judah. Joseph. Kip. Leader. Lindsay.
Here.
Linstead. Luck. Lukens. Lynch. Mabry. Marshall. Martinez. Marvin. Morrow. McCormick. McLaughlin. Ortiz.
Here.
Parenti. Puglisi. Ricks. Representative Ricks. No. Ricks is excused. Rutenell. Sirota. Snyder. Soper. Story. Taggart. Titone. Valdez A. Velasco.
Present.
Vigil. Weinberg. Weissman. Wilford. Wilson. Winter. Woodrow. Representative Woodrow is excused. Young. And Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker is here. Representative Rutenell.
Thank you, Mr.
Oh, I'm sorry. One moment, please. What are the numbers? Okay, with 60 present and 5 excused, we do have a quorum. Representative Rutenell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tempore. It's a pleasure to serve with you.
Pleasure to serve with you as well.
Colleagues, I'm going to continue my now tradition to give you a fun fact about my district. I'll tell you a little bit about Hammond's Candies. Maybe some of y'all have enjoyed it. It's been around for over 100 years. It's right outside of Commerce City. And they're still using the same handmade techniques that they've been using for about 100 years now. And of course, to try to get you to vote in favor of this very important motion, I will be doing another impression. I got good reviews from my Christopher Walken yesterday. I want to thank all of you for your kind words. Today I was thinking about following in the footsteps of our leader at the executive branch and his world-renowned Yoda impression. This motion you must pass. Vote aye you must. Madam Speaker, I move that the Journal of Wednesday, February 21, 2024 be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk.
Representative Rootnell, you have brought a whole new experience to our morning motions. Members, you've heard the motion that the Journal be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, the motion is adopted. Members, we do have business to tend to. I will invite you to take your seats. We are on third reading. Thank you, members. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 51.
Senate Bill 51 by Senators Zenzinger and Kirkmeyer, also Representatives Kipp and Catlin, concerning modifications to enhance adult education in Colorado.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 051 on third reading and final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 51 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Lindsay, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Lindsay votes yes. Representative Epps, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Epps votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 58 aye, 3 no, and 4 excused, Senate Bill 51 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Co-sponsors, Representatives Lindsay, Epps, and Ortiz. Please close the machine. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to House Bill 1227.
House Bill 1227 by Representatives Weissman and Soper, also Senators Gardner and Gonzalez, concerning implementation of the Committee on Legal Services recommendations in connection with legislative review of state agencies' rules.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move House Bill 1227 on third reading and final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of House Bill 1227 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Lindsay, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Lindsay votes yes. Representative Epps, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Epps votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 60 aye, 2 no, and 3 excused, House Bill 1227 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representative Epps, co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to proceed out of order for the consideration of resolutions.
Seeing no objection, we will proceed out of order for consideration of resolutions. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to Senate Joint Resolution 7.
Senate Joint Resolution 7 by Senator Baisley, also Representative Luck, concerning designating portions of United States Highway 24 and State Highway 67 that are in Teller County as the Purple Heart Trail.
Representative Luck, welcome back. Good to see you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Madam Speaker. It is an honor to serve with you and good to see you again.
An honor to serve with you.
I don't have a script today, so I'm going to try to do this from memory. I move Senate Joint Resolution 007 and ask that it be read at length.
Mr. Shebel, please proceed.
Whereas the Purple Heart Medal was established by General George Washington on August 7th, 1782. And whereas the Purple Heart Medal is awarded to honor military personnel who are wounded or killed in action against the enemy. And whereas the Military Order of the Purple Heart of the USA is an organization that was formed in 1932 for the protection and mutual interest of all who have received the decoration. And whereas the Military Order of the Purple Heart of the USA is composed exclusively of Purple Heart recipients and is the only veteran service organization composed strictly of combat veterans. And whereas the Military Order of the Purple Heart of the USA is coordinating a national effort to establish the Purple Heart Trail, consisting of major interstate highways and roads leading to patriotic sites. And whereas our state and nation owe a deep debt of gratitude to those members of our armed forces who have been wounded or killed in combat and honored with the Purple Heart Medal. And whereas Teller County has a large population of highly decorated veterans, many of whom are Purple Heart recipients, and Teller County has always supported its population of veterans. Now therefore be it resolved by the Senate of the 74th General Assembly of the State of Colorado, the House of Representatives concurring herein, that the United States Highway 24 and State Highway 67 in Teller County be designated as the Purple Heart Trail, and that the Colorado Department of Transportation may accept and expend gifts, grants, and donations for the purposes of the initial placement of signs to mark the United States Highway 24 and State Highway 67 in Teller County as the Purple Heart Trail.
Representative Luck.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And thank you, Mr. Shebel, for reading that. Everyone, you may be seated. Teller County is one of the 5 counties in my district, and it has 5,000 veterans. That means 1 in every 4 males and 1 in every 9 women is a veteran in Teller County. Last year, they decided to make Teller County a Purple Heart County, and all 3 of their incorporated communities are also Purple Heart communities. Every single road that leads into Teller County from another county is designated as a Purple Heart road. This resolution, if passed here today, will complete the designations by making the state highways into Purple Heart Trail highways. Some might say, what is the significance of a sign on a road? Why would we spend our time on something seemingly trivial? And I'm reminded of the importance of markers and monuments. This is an age-old practice going back thousands of years of history that has been designated by markers along the roadside, Ebenezer's, if you will. Why is that? It's because when you're driving along a road and your little one in the back seat is old enough not to cry, which mine's not yet, and they read that sign, they say, "What is that, Mom? What is a Purple Heart, Dad?" And you have the opportunity to spend the next few miles explaining the sacrifice that is designated by that simple symbol. A sacrifice that many have made, many in my own acquaintance, many likely in yours. A sacrifice worthy of being remembered. But not only does it help us to honor those from the past who have given, who have been willing to sacrifice more than even they did, sacrifice up to their life, but it also helps us to raise another generation willing to do the same, who are inspired by the stories of those who have gone before. One of the Purple Heart recipients in Teller County, his story is of Vietnam, where everyone in his unit died. And he received the Purple Heart because as he was carrying bodies out of the conflict zone, he continued to get shot. That's one of the stories that we should remember. And it's one of the stories that should inspire each and every one of us to sacrifice in all of the ways that we have in front of us in order to make this world a better place for those who live in it. So thank you for your time and attention, and I urge an aye vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion before us is the adoption of Senate Joint Resolution 7. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Lindsay, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Lindsay votes yes. Representative Epps, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Epps votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 63 ayes, 0 no, and 2 excused, the resolution is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representative Lindsay and Ortiz, co-sponsor. Representative Velasco, co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that the following bills be made special orders on Thursday, February 22nd, 2024, at 9:26 a.m. Senate Bill 58 and Senate Bill 30.
Seeing no objection, the bills listed by the Majority Leader will be made special orders on Thursday, February 22nd at 9:26 a.m. Representative English. Seeing no objection, thank you, Representative English. Representative English, you have all heard the motion. Representative English will take the chair.
Oh, wait. Yeah. The committee will come to order. With your unanimous consent, the bills will be read by title unless there is a request for reading a bill at length. Committee reports are printed and in your bill folders. Floor amendments will be shown on the screen and on your iPads. Bills will be laid over upon motion of the majority leader. The court rule is relaxed. Mr. Shebel, please read the title of Senate Bill 24058.
Senate Bill 58 by Senators Baisley and Roberts, also Representatives Titone and Byrd, concerning landowner liability under the Colorado Recreational Use Statute.
Representative Byrd.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and it's an honor to serve with you.
It's an honor to serve with you.
I move Senate Bill 2358.
To the bill.
Oh, I'm sorry, Senate Bill 2458.
To the bill. Representative Byrd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, members, this bill brings added or needed clarification to Colorado's current recreational use statute, which has served for decades to encourage private landowners to allow public access to their lands for recreational purposes such as biking, hiking, rock climbing, fishing, and hunting. The statute currently limits liability exposure for landowners, or to landowners rather, for injuries that might be suffered by recreators, except when there has been a willful or malicious failure to guard or warn against a known or dangerous condition, use, structure, or activity that is likely to cause harm. This statute has served our state well for many years. It was passed in 1963. Its presence, in fact, helped open up many of Colorado's most beautiful hiking trails, mountains, and lakes, and in so doing facilitated the growth of Colorado's outdoor recreational economy, which today employs over 125,000 workers and contributes approximately $11.6 million to the state's economy, or billion rather, with a B. In 2019, however, the United States Air Force Academy was sued when a bicyclist riding on the Academy's property crashed because of a sinkhole and suffered a traumatic brain injury. The court found that the defendant was liable for the plaintiff's damages because the plaintiff had willfully failed to warn the public of a known hazard. Since this time, members, 5 Colorado 14ers have been closed to the public due to liability risks. Mount Lincoln and Mount Democrat have been temporarily reopened through use of a waiver system, but are likely to close again if stronger liability protections are not provided by the state. We are hopeful that with the clarifications our bill will make, recreators will have the warnings that they need to make responsible choices to protect their own safety, and that landowners will have the assurances that they need to keep their beautiful lands open and available for the benefit of Coloradans and others in our state who wish to enjoy the great, big, beautiful Colorado we know.
Representative Titone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members and guests, we live here in Colorado because one of those reasons is because we love the outdoors. We love to go biking, hiking, climbing, fishing, hunting, kayaking, paragliding, all these things. And that's what this bill is about. It's about access to the outdoors. It's about access to the people of Colorado and to our visitors who are coming to Colorado to spend money here recreating, and that's a good thing for our economy. We had a problem with access, and some of these 14ers and some lands that we want to access are owned privately. So we wanted to make sure, and we made a really good compromise bill here to be sure that the liability of the private landowners who are generously opening that land up to people who want to go on there for a huge list of different outdoor activities can have access to those things and have the landowner have less liability for it. This is a compromise that has been a couple years in the making, but it's all about putting up a sign that tells people at the entrance of the trail that there is some kinds of dangers up ahead that they are known about. A lot of the activities that people undertake in doing these activities is inherently dangerous. If you're going rock climbing, you know it's a dangerous sport. If you're going paragliding, you know it's dangerous. But there are some other things there that are cliffs and things like that. These signs will be put up there to tell people about those dangers, and this will get us access to those lands. There's one thing I did want to talk briefly about. The executive director of the Colorado 14 Initiative has a quote, and his name is Lloyd Athern, and he said, Senate Bill 58 provides much needed clarity regarding the language landowners need to use to inform people recreating on the property about the inherent risks and dangers. Having personally hauled multiple 5-foot-long signposts about 5 miles and 4,500 vertical feet to Mount Chavano's 12,300-foot summit, which CFI owns, I know that this is a burden on landowners to some extent. This bill will greatly ease our burden as landowners by ensuring that we can sign at the trailhead and not at 12,300 feet. Landowners benefit, the people of Colorado benefit, the people coming here to recreate benefit. This is a great bill. Please support this. Vote yes.
Is there any further discussion on the bill? Representative Catlin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
Honored to serve with you.
Thank you. I have a few questions. I wasn't in committee. On private farm ground, out where I live and a lot of the people that I represent, we have the property posted for no trespassing, yet there are a lot of people that consider a pathway for an irrigation pipe or those kind of things to be open to use as bikes, motorcycles, horses, all of the things that recreation involves. Will this apply to that farm ground that's down way far from the mountains? And does it open us up to more problems than we have already? If you could answer that.
Representative Byrd.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to my colleague for the question. So we actually had support from the ag community. They came in and testified in support of this. So if you are giving the public permission to access your lands for free, previously private landowners, when they granted you use or the public use to come just enjoy my land for free, do it here, we've all benefited from the Colorado recreational use statute. And the lawsuit that we talked about kind of showed that that there's a duty to warn, that you have to have an express duty to warn to be able to give people a heads up at authorized places where people could enter your private property. Just one general notice of, here whether there's a sinkhole, like if there are things that you know about, you don't have an affirmative duty to go out and look for all the things that could be wrong, but for the things that you do know are wrong, where you give people permission to enter your property, posting just a sign, and there's provisions in statute what this, like the size of the sign, gives you the same protections that you would have had under the Colorado recreational use statute. So this should be better for you and gives you more clarity in the law, but it doesn't do anything to diminish whatever protections you had in the past.
Representative Tatone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just to add a little bit to that, what we're talking about here mostly is the destinations that these landowners are giving access to. So if a landowner owns a 14er, people want to get to the top of the 14er. And the landowner is giving access to the trail that exists to go up to the 14er. And if you deviate from the trail and go too far off and you venture out into places you're not supposed to be, it says right in the bill that you're trespassing. It's about just access to the trail and the things that they have designated as part of where the access is, how the access is, what that trail is, and the destination at the top. And then you have no access to any of that land other than that. And that's sort of that deal that people are giving for that free access to the land.
Representative Byrd.
I just have one other thing to add to that. So if you didn't give somebody permission to enter your property, they are still trespassers. So you retain that right, and there's a whole body of law that exists currently and isn't touched by this.
Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple questions of the bill sponsors. I'm going to wait a minute just so the conversation on my left can get taken place. Ma'am.
Okay.
It's okay. We're good.
Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, bill sponsors. So, with respect to liability for private property owners, this is a very big concern for landowners. Traditionally at Buffalo Springs Ranch, we used to let the public come and fish openly working with the Division of Wildlife. We used to also let people come and arrowhead hunt on our property because of the many, many years the Cheyenne Indians were in and around the Buffalo Springs Ranch area. We also would let youth groups come and camp and do prairie summer camps and retreats. But as our society got more litigious, as lawyers got more aggressive, as these proverbial ambulance-chasing organizations were out there trying to find liability and encourage people to sue, particularly civilly, people stopped allowing a lot of that. So my question is, does this protect, and how specifically does it protect those landowners? And then here's more importantly, if they don't have the sign up, what changes with respect to liability as we ask for these warning signs to be displayed? Is there additional liability, or is it the same liability?
Representative Byrd.
So thank you to our good colleague from Akron for asking these questions. If you have not invited people onto your property, they don't have permission, they remain trespassers. So one thing just to make clear, this law doesn't now allow recreational access on closed land. So whatever protections you have, if you are not inviting people onto your property, you have all the same protections in law that you have today. Our bill doesn't change that.
Representative Chitone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to say, like, this bill was extensively stakeholdered with landowners. And the landowners agree that this is a protection that's there. What the bill states is that you put up a sign that says, you know, you have access to this kind of activities here, and if you deviate from the designated places that you're supposed to be, then you're trespassing. But if you're engaging in the activities that you have allowed and given permission to do, then the liability goes to that person as long as you have stated that these dangers exist on this land, and you know, if something happens to you because of that, that's you've assumed that risk, and that's really for the people who are going on there. So it is a protection for the land. The landowners have agreed that this is a policy that they can live with, and it's about giving permission to be there and to engage in those specific activities.
Representative Byrd.
Yes, and I think it's just important to just add to this because our state isn't only 14ers and hiking and biking. We also have access to ag lands and need to be mindful. And I just appreciate you elevating this and went and reviewed our notes. So Farm Bureau worked with us on this. The Colorado Water Congress, also Rocky Mountain Farmers Union, they are in support of this bill. So just so you know that the interests of landowners writ large have been considered, and really this is to give you comfort and protection that if you do open up your land for people's use, and if you know that there is a problem. So the case that I talked about here with the Air Force Academy, the landowner was aware of a sinkhole and just didn't post a sign. And so the courts there determined that the fact that you just didn't tell anybody after you've invited them onto your property and said, sure, come use this, come use it for free, and then didn't tell anybody knowing you knew there was a risk. There's no duty to go find out what the risks are, but you knew there was a risk and didn't tell anybody, even though you invited them to come and ride their bikes on your property. That constituted a breach of the current recreational use statute. So that's why we wanted, like, what can we do to give landowners certainty that if out of the generous spirit of your heart, you're offering parts of your land to be used, so long as people stay where you offer them the opportunity to come and use your land, you're doing that for free. People abide by that. If you know there's a sinkhole, you just post a sign where people are allowed to enter your property. Hey, there's a sinkhole. then you get all of the liability protections that we already thought that private landowners had when they open up their land for free for people to come and recreate on.
Representative Holtorf.
Thank you for that explanation. I do appreciate that. I have one comment and then one final question, and then I'm going to sit down. I know that makes a lot of people happy. We can cheer and celebrate after we adjourn. But the first comment is, if you come to Buffalo Springs Range, I shouldn't have to put up a sign that says we have rattlesnakes and they might bite you and could kill you. That's an inherent liability that we have in eastern Colorado and all over the West. I shouldn't have to make an announcement about that, and if somebody enters our family's property and is struck by a rattlesnake, that's on them. It shouldn't be on the landowner. Those are inherent risks. And that's a problem because many times lawyers that are looking for something to do, to line their pockets with money, they will try to find a way to put a case together to assume liability to those that are property holders and landowners. But the question I have now is, with respect to the sign, who designates the language that needs to be put? And I think it's in the bill, but then where do we get these signs? And who's going to pay for these signs? Because signage costs money. For those of you that run campaigns, you know that. And it's a big business. So how does that get done, and how do landowners deal with that? And that's my final question. Thank you.
Representative Chitone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't think that the bill doesn't really specify who pays for it, but I mean, a lot of times the access that's being given to the land is being done with the interest of a lot of different groups of people and organizations, like hunting groups or outdoor recreation groups. And I'm sure that if you wanted to give access to certain things like that, you might be able to ask them to help you pay for a sign. Would be my suggestion, but it doesn't really say. This is really about access to land for specific purposes. You can always say no and not do this and not have to put any of this up. And if you have guests, those guests are going to be, that's just a guest of yourself. That I don't know how that liability works. I'm not an attorney, but these are for places that are accessing for climbing and biking and most of the kinds of things like that. I don't think this really pertains to your personal guests that might be at your ranch, unless you wanted to open it up to the public on a regular basis and put a parking lot there. Then you would probably have to put a sign up.
I have something just to add.
Representative Byrd.
So I had to phone a friend and received an update that's responsive to our colleagues' questions. So actually, the Fix Colorado Recreational Use Statute group is purchasing signs and sending them to landowners who want them. So really, this is about protecting landowners. It's a trade, right? So if somebody is gracious enough to open up their private land for a recreational user's use, we want to give you certainty and protection so that you are not liable when you shouldn't be liable. So this is a way to protect yourself, but there's an organization that's paying for those signs. So if you are opening up your land to recreational use, I'm going to connect you with these people and they will send you a sign.
Representative Taggart. And members, can we keep the noise down just a little?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
It's an honor to serve with you.
I'd like to start by thanking the bill sponsors on this. I had the opportunity many years ago to start a project in western Colorado called the Palisade Plunge. And for those of you that know anything about mountain biking, it is the most significant vertical drop of any mountain bike trail in the state of Colorado. It goes from over 10,400 feet down to 4,800 feet. 10.5 down to 4,800 feet. It goes through alpine zones, down through volcanic rock, down through the many, many different stratifications in our topography in western Colorado. If you get off of that trail for any reason at all, you are putting yourself in harm's way at a very serious level. And so we worked with many entities to get their cooperation to go through their land, to go from the top of the mesa all the way to Palisade. This really helps them because that topography, as I said, can be very dangerous, and you get off the trail, you're in trouble. But it's a great ride. So any of you that are good on your mountain bike, you got to have it on your bucket list. Thank you very much.
Is there any further discussion on this bill? Seeing none, the question before us, I'm sorry, Representative Herrick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think we still have some questions down here, but I just wanted to really be clear that this bill is not only talking about 14ers. And I think when we frame the conversation like that, it is not painting the entire picture. This bill also impacts people who live in metro areas, in Denver and beyond. It impacts folks who live in rural Colorado on the Eastern Plains. It impacts everybody. And so when we talk about what is your own risk, I think we have to be very specific about what that looks like. Do people know that if they're walking on Catlin's land, that they might, I don't know, run into a cow when they're trying to tip it? I don't know, Catlin. Representative Catlin, you might help me with some of this dialogue here. But then where does the liability and responsibility come? And I think that there is a really good conversation about allowing recreational races through people's land and where that liability is. I want to be clear that that's not the liability of the racers who are in there, it's about the spectators. Where's the responsibility to make sure that that land is safe for spectators to be on, right? This bill is something that has been discussed ever since I've been in legislature, particularly when it comes to kids wandering in someone's backyard that doesn't have a sign and them drowning in their pond or in their pool. That's a problem, right? And so I think that there is still more work to be done on this statute around defining recreational use, around defining exactly what when this bill would and would not apply. However, in committee, I had a lot of questions about search and rescue. I know some of you all in rural counties or places that have a lot of search and rescue activity, there's been a lot of conversation about liability for paying for search and rescue. There's some other bills that may be coming this session around this, but I did have some conversation in committee, and then I'm grateful for the search and rescue people who followed up to talk about the liability around search and rescue. And this bill does not impact or change the search and rescue liability. So one piece is if someone is needing search and rescue, they have access to your private land. Number two, if someone needs search and rescue, they typically have to pay for that search and rescue operation. But where I think there is some confusion is then can that individual come after that private landowner to recuperate the search and rescue costs if something happens on their land? That is still in question, and the bill does not impact that. And so I think to some of the questions on the right here, I think they're very valid questions about what exactly, how we navigate this landscape if it's not clear where the liability is. I think there's more work to be done in this area, but for today, I am satisfied with the information that I received from search and rescue around those provisions. And so I want to thank the bill sponsors for working diligently with folks who are not in committee to answer some of these questions. And I think the conversation will continue. But make no mistake, we're not just talking about 14ers. What we're saying with this bill in Colorado is if you come onto land, public or private land, and you injure yourself, that you have liability and responsibility for what happens to you on that land. I think we need to be very careful about that. I think when we're talking about the liability then to landowners, we are creating an environment where there may be more lawsuits around that. But currently, there are lawsuits around who's responsible if someone injures themselves on your land. We have more work to do in Colorado, and I think that this is a bill that is a step in a direction, but there is way more work that needs to be done. But to be clear, this is not just about races. This is not just about 14ers. This impacts all private land in Colorado.
Is there any further discussion on this bill? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 24 24058. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 24058 passes. Mr. Shebo, please read the title of Senate Bill 24030.
Senate Bill 30 by Senators Rodriguez and Gonzalez, also Representatives Amable and Martinez, concerning creating a working group to develop a definition of recidivism.
Representative Amable,
I move Senate Bill 30.
to the bill.
Thank you. So this bill came out of the Recidivism Interim Committee, and it is important that we figure out how to reduce recidivism, but one of the key parts of that is that we don't have a good definition. So this bill is putting together a working group to come up with a definition for recidivism that we can apply to all the different places where we use that term so that we are all speaking the same language. And I ask for a yes vote.
Representative Martinez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, so this just really came out of the interim committee on recidivism, and again, looking at all the different data points, we wanted to make sure we have a good streamlined process to make sure we have accurate data on what we're measuring and being able to really determine whether we're doing what we need to or not. And at this point, we can't really do that because of the various different definitions. So we think this is a good bill. It's going to clean up some definitions for us, and we urge an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on this? Representative Armagas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I heard this bill in committee and other bills relating to recidivism, but specifically to this bill, I don't think it's a worthy cause to create a working group to define something that is pretty easily, simply, and definitively stated as, and I'll quote, the definition of recidivism, the tendency of a convicted criminal to reoffend. It's a 7-word definition that doesn't need a working group to be able to redefine something that is used to measure the criminal justice system and how effective the criminal justice system is. It's a very simple definition. I don't think needs government money to fund redefining the tendency of a convicted
Representative
criminal to
Armagas, hold on one
reoffend.
second, I'm sorry. Members, can we please keep the noise down? It's getting a little loud. Thank you. Representative Armagas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So again, the measure of recidivism, the definition of recidivism, I think is something that is easily stating what we need to focus on and doesn't need to be redefined. It is what defines how effective our criminal justice system is, and the 7-word definition does not need a working group to create something else in how we look at or how we define recidivism beyond a 7-word definition that keeps it pretty cut, dry, and simple. So I would encourage a no vote on this bill. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Representative DeGraff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to agree with my colleague here. We have I looked it up, there's another definition, pretty much the same, relapse into criminal behavior. Continuing to commit crimes after a punishment. What I very much disagree with this bill is that we're assigning a working group a blank check and saying, okay, we're gonna, and the way I see these typically working is we say, hey, we want somebody to go in and do a working group, and then they come back and then we say, well, we should just do what the working group said. It's already in position. If somebody wants to get this working group together, we have lots of working groups that don't require funding and they don't require redefining. If there's a group that wants to change the way statistics are kept and they think if there's a part of the justice system that wants to change what stats are kept, I think they can do that. Or they can come here and they can present and say, this is what we want to change, this is why we want to change it, because obviously the way this bill refers, it refers to a lot of different state agencies, just wherever this term goes. And so we need to not just have a an agency or a working group looking at, we need to have that come back to here, and before we put something into law that says we're going to rubber stamp it. So I'll be a no on this. I think we have a good, easy definition for it, and this looks more like a, I don't see the value of it. I don't see the need to spend more money on a very simple definition. So I'll be a no.
Representative Martinez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I just want to say for the record that this does not cost any money from the state funds. This is a group, a task force that's being created without any governmental money. They will report back in on their findings, and then that decision will be made at that point in time.
Representative Bottoms.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to address the fact that if you're a victim of crime, recidivism is a major importance to you. To change the terminology, I feel like, I don't know if, I don't assume this is the reason, but to change the terminology feels like we're trying to hide the bigger issue, which is if somebody is a rapist, we want to know whether they're going to continue to do that. We're going to want to measure that as the primary measure, not as some kind of secondary or even not at all. If somebody's a murderer, we're going to be able to measure that as, is this going to be the repeat context? And to me, that is going to be the guide rule with which we need to decide everything, including funding, where these people go, what kind of even help that they get inside, those kind of things. And so to change the terminology and take away the measuring of recidivism, to me seems like a very tragic thing to do. It seems dangerous to society. It seems dangerous to the victims that have already dealt with this stuff. They're the victim of this crime, and now we're saying, well, we're not going to judge whether or not you're going to have some kind of return of this, or whether that needs to be measured at all. How we redefine all of these different terms, I think, is huge for us, and specifically when it comes to finance. I know they just said that this doesn't change that in kind of the fiscal context, but I don't see how that it doesn't if the terms are different than how we're going to even redefine how we arbitrate these things. If we're changing the terminology, how does that work? How do we litigate this stuff if we're changing the terminology on these kind of things? And so for me, this is not just a semantics bill. To me, this is dangerous. That actually puts us potentially in greater harm's way, and it puts the victims, I think it compounds their, if you want to use the term, PTS. I think that potentially can do that, because we're not measuring these things on the quality of what is the standard, and I think should remain the standard. So,
Representative Winters.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And my question pretty much is, if this is a voluntary task force, why didn't you just meet over the summer with the task force, stakeholder, and then come back next year with the piece of legislation?
Representative Amable.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So let me just say, in answer to your question, the interim committee was only given 2 meetings. So we didn't have the opportunity to really get the work done. So we did assign a working group to come up with these task forces. There's 3 bills that came out of the interim committee. And this is the work, is to figure this out. And let me just say, there's a couple of different things about why we're not changing the term recidivism. We're not coming up with a new word. But right now, you can, if you committed assault and then you are out on probation, maybe a term of your probation is that you can't drink alcohol. And then you have a drink and you return to prison. So that's different than if you committed another assault, or if you did robbery, or if you did some other crime. And we want to understand what, in some contexts, we say a technical violation doesn't mean that you recidivated, but in other contexts, it does. And so we want to make sure we're all talking about the same thing. There is no nefarious objective here. We're not trying to change recidivism. Eventually we are. We're trying to improve recidivism. But one of the ways that we're going to do that is by understanding it. Another thing is that we have all these reentry groups, and they make claims. We have a 90% success rate. Well, what does that mean? What does it mean? Does that mean that 10% of your people went back to prison, or does it mean that 10% had a technical violation? Was it a new crime? And so all this is trying to do is coalesce around the meaning, the time frames. So one group could say, we have 90% success rate, but they're only measuring for 6 months. Another group is saying, hey, we have a 50% success rate, but they're looking at 5 years. So don't we want to know, before we fund these programs, how effective they are? And that is the point of the bill.
Assistant Minority Leader Winters.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the question is, when you brought up the example of alcohol, so what I'm trying to understand is, are we going to try to narrow the scope or widen the scope? So perfect example is if you have somebody that commits a crime based upon maybe they have a drinking problem, which causes them to commit the crime, maybe be a violent offender, whether it's assault or whatever, will that be part of this? So if, I know you were kind of saying, so they violated their parole by having a drink, but will the scope be narrowed so much that if part of the drinking is part of the reason that they were in trouble in the first place? Does that make sense, the question I'm asking?
Representative Amable.
Yeah, so no, it doesn't, it neither narrows or broadens. It just says, here are some words we can use to describe what happened that help us to understand what happened or what happens across the board so that we can address what is happening and do a better job of reducing recidivism, which I think really is a public safety thing that I think we should all get behind.
Representative Martinez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess, again, to reiterate this point, from my experience, I've been working with the incarcerated population for over 10 years in various different capacities, and finding recidivism is measured in different ways depending on the population that you're talking to. And so when you look at that, and having a streamlined definition, I think, will help get data in a better set and being able to really determine whether or not we're doing what we need to be doing. And because we have like 10 different definitions of what that is, depending on the demographics, depending on the crime, depending on that rate, finding out whether we're actually doing what we need to do now is really, really difficult. And so I think that this group is designed to be able to do that. And they're also comprised of members from Department of Corrections, local sheriffs, probation offices, and also having to report back with the General Assembly as well, too. So I think having all of those different experts in those fields, I think, is going to be really critical to getting their input in on this and being able to get that update and their recommendation from that point.
Representative Luck.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I didn't have the pleasure of hearing this in Judiciary. I missed Judiciary. But I did have two quick questions. The first is, recidivism has already been read out, the definition, but is there anything else in statute that requires any agency or what have you to submit to a statutory definition? And if not, then presumably the definitional variances that you're seeing between agencies and departments and what have you are done via the executive branch's own rulemaking and processes. So what precludes the governor and his different agencies from doing this on their own without having this particular working group? And why are they not actually all abiding the same definition already?
Representative Martinez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so that's a great question. And I think that that's part of where the problem lies in, is that every different organization is measuring it in a different way, and that's what's causing some of these data points to not line up. So probation measures it in a certain way, Department of Corrections measures it in a certain way, probation measures theirs in a certain way, and so I think that that's where some of the data sets are getting jumbled, and this is really hopefully trying to get some clarity to the situation, and because everybody's kind of doing their own thing, I think that that's where some of the data points are not aligning well to where we can accurately determine if we're doing what we need to be doing.
Representative Luck.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for that answer. But do we know why the departments and agencies aren't just coming together to make their own?
Representative Amable.
Yeah, because they want to convene stakeholders who are experts.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 24030? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 24030. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 24030 passes. Majority Leader Duran.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion before us is to rise and report. Any objections? No? Rise and report. The committee will rise and report.
The House will come back to order. Mr. Schiebel, please read the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Madam Speaker, your Committee of the Whole begs leave to report as under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof and making the following recommendations thereon. Senate Bill 30 and 58 passed on second reading, ordered, revised, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Thank you. Representative English. There we go. Members, you have heard the motion. There are no amendments at the desk. The question before the House is the adoption of the report of the Committee of the Whole. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Velasco, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Velasco votes yes. Representative Lindsay, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Lindsay votes yes. Representative Epps, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Epps votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Bachenfeld is excused. Please close the machine. With 45 aye, 18 no, and 2 excused, the report of the Committee of the Whole is adopted. Members, announcements and introductions. I have one announcement. Representative Mabry will replace Representative Woodrow on State Civic, Military, and Veterans Affairs for today only. Representative Kipp.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Energy and Environment members, we will be meeting at 1:30 p.m. today in LSBA to hear HB 24-1141. 1173 has been moved to March 7th, so we will not be hearing that bill today. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Amabile.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Business Affairs and Labor will be meeting today at 1:30. We are going to be hearing 2 bills, House Bill 1160, House Bill 1157, and we will be starting promptly at 1:30 in 112. Thanks.
Thank you. Representative Snyder.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House Finance will meet at 10:30 down in room 1112 to hear 2 bills, 119 and 1056. And secondly, we have some wonderful guests here with us in the chamber along the sides today, and they are from the Society of Enrolled Agents of Colorado. I'd like to welcome them to the House floor. Members of the Colorado Society of Enrolled Agents are here today for their 5th annual legislative day. Enrolled agents, as you may be aware, are federally authorized and regulated expertise in the field of taxation. They are empowered and licensed by the U.S. Department of Treasury to prepare tax returns and represent taxpayers before all administrative levels of the IRS service examinations, appeals, and collections. They come from all over the state of Colorado and the western region. Their members have joined us today on the House floor, so please help me in welcoming the Colorado Enrolled Agents. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Snyder. Welcome all. Representative McCormick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today at 10:35, House Agriculture, Water, and Natural Resources Committee will be meeting in the basement, room 107, to hear House Bill 24-1117. Thanks.
Thank you. Minority Leader Puglisi and Representative McLaughlin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We have a joint guest who has come a very long way to be with us today. I want to introduce Mayor Clark Craig from Ignacio, Colorado, and I will.
Yay. And I think if he came all this way, we need to give him a huge round of applause.
Rep. McLaughlin.
Part 2 of my announcement, which isn't nearly as exciting. Education Committee, we are, I got the wrong page, sorry. Okay, we are meeting at 1:30 today. We are listening to 1096 and 1136, and I can't wait to see you there. Thanks.
Representative Basenecker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, the House State Civic Veterans, Military and Veterans Affairs Committee will meet 15 minutes upon adjournment. We have 3 bills today, 1022, 1059, and 1128. We'll see you over in LSBA.
Thank you. Representative Frizzell.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It is an honor to serve with you.
And an honor to serve with you.
Thank you. Members, today we are so excited to welcome the Colorado Association for Gifted and Talented. So, folks, students, would you please stand up if you are part of the Colorado Association of Gifted and Talented? Thank you for being here with us. And if you see someone carrying one of these lovely backpacks around, please make sure to welcome them individually. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Young.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am excited to announce that it is Habitat for Humanity Day here in the Capitol. And as you know, this is a group that works on affordable housing across our state. We have 25 Habitat for Humanity affiliates in 45 communities. Today we have representatives from Weld, Mesa, Grand, Eagle, El Paso, Garfield, Pitkin, Larimer, Boulder, Jefferson, Clear Creek, Park, Summit, and El Paso. If you want to hear about some innovative work in Habitat for Humanity, please talk to representatives from Weld. We're doing a 3D printer house that will be, I'm happy to hear the clapping, and they are doing large developments, more to be announced at the end of May. And if you haven't already had a chance to talk to them, please join me, please rise and join me in welcoming them to the Capitol and for all of their work that they do to provide affordable housing in this state.
Representative Marvin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to introduce two guests from my district today. First, I would like to welcome Mayor Pro Tem from Thornton, Karen Bigelow. She was my former colleague and collaborator, and so I'm grateful to have her down here today. And then I also wanted to recognize Carlos Pacheco, who's the CEO of the Premier Members Credit Union, who's one of the credit unions that's down here today for my district. So thank you so much for being here.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I do have an announcement, members, if you could pay attention, please. So, since we all have been working really hard, no, we're not off. Tomorrow will be No Tie Friday.
Wait, was that Representative Hartsook? Well, there is no yelling from the seats. I appreciated your enthusiasm.
You still must wear a sports coat, but no tie. Come on, let me hear it.
Wow, I don't think that landed very well.
Where's your tie?
All right, Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to lay over the balance of the calendar till Friday, February 23rd, 2024.
The balance of the calendar will be laid over until Friday, February 23rd, 2024. Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that the House stand in recess until later today.
The House will stand in recess until later today.